So, what comes first? Thoughts or feelings? This is a hotly contested topic in the world of coaching and change work and psychotherapy. This is Jürgen Rasmussen, by the way. Welcome to my channel, the Provocative Hypnosis channel. So, in this very episode, I'm going to be delving into that particular topic. What comes first, thoughts or feelings? You know, the way it looks to me is it seems as if what we call thoughts and what we call feelings is kind of two sides of the same coin. And this very distinction is itself a thought construct. The very idea that there's something discrete called thoughts, separate from something called feelings, and that one can cause the other, and that we can use the scientific method to kind of determine which one it is itself a thought construct. So I just spoke to a colleague who claimed to have read an article which in which the authors claimed that it had now been shown scientifically that thoughts in fact come first. But here's an interesting thought experiment to do that I very often do with seminar participants and sometimes with my individual clients. So I'll just invite you to pretend that we're in the room together and that we're actually having a conversation. And if that was the case, I would ask you, what do you see around you? Now, so far, without exception, no one has just said space. Without exception, everyone has claimed to see a world consisting of a multiplicity of distinct separate objects occurring to a separate subject, usually located behind the eyes, that's somehow separate from the objects, and which they take themselves to be. But in reality, that in and of itself is a thought construct. You see, they're not describing what they see in the room. They're describing what they think they see. It's thinking, it's the process of thinking with its categories, mostly linguistic, that imposes distinct categories and a multiplicity of separate objects onto the flow of experience. And also, which imposes this subject-object relationship, where it seems as if we are located often behind the eyes and are somehow separate from a world out there. This very experience, if you will, in and of itself, is a thought construct. So the very notion then that you can divide experience into discrete categories of thoughts and feelings, and one causing the other, is itself generated from thought. I think Sydney Banks, the man behind the three principles, was right when he postulated that thought itself is a principle. Now, I'm formulating it slightly different than he did, but thought being that which takes, the unity of life or just formless energy or consciousness itself and seemingly turns it into a world of, again, seemingly separate sub-objects occurring to a separate object, right? So I'm not saying that the game of science and the kind of left hemispheric world of separate objects and subject-object relationship, that this isn't useful and that it isn't necessary and that there isn't much of value to be discovered by exploring in that direction. But it's also important to realize that this is a thought construct to begin with, and that there's so much to be seen when you not just look at thoughts and feelings as kind of the cookies coming out of the oven, but you begin to realize that the whole principle of thinking itself is fundamental to your experience. This is the direction that I point my clients in when I teach them or guide them in the psychological illusion model. It's less about the content of what or how you think, but it's more about deeply recognizing the role of thinking as fundamental in experience. So I hope this was useful. If my ideas resonate with you and you're looking to make some sort of change in your life and you're wondering whether you and I could be a good fit, I invite you to go to provocativehypnosis.com and send me an email. Also, take a look at the seminars I have coming up. In September 2025, I'm going to be doing a 10-week course on how to see through the self-illusion. And that very illusion, that which we tend to take ourselves to be, is also in and of itself a thought construct. Anyways, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this.